You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. And as you know, here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And my guest, Abdul Malik Kubaku, said thank you for the new Crusading Guide newspaper. Dr. Thomas Kojo Stevens is Vice Chairman, Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. Gary Mafo Nimako. He is a lawyer and a senior member of the NPP's communication team. Felix Kwachi Ofosu is former Deputy Minister for Communications. We will be joined later by Fuseni Issa, who is MP Okaikwe North and member Finance Committee of Parliament. Now, let's quickly get to MASLOC and also ask the questions about what exactly is going on at MASLOC. Now, this is how I choose to start. And I start with a report that has been done. See how much of that report I can read to you. That a forensic audit of the operations of MASLOC under the John Mahama administration has revealed jaw-dropping suspected fraud and financial impropriety, reported by myjoyonline.com. The report, which has been intercepted by JoyNews, cited the former CEO at MASLOC, Sedina Tamaklo Atieno, her predecessor, Bertha Soga, of widespread acts of corruption, inflation of prices for projects with several millions of cedis misappropriated. Other officials, including the head of operations and finance at MASLOC, were not left out of the suspected misappropriation. A report of the audit indicates that Mrs. Tamaklo withdrew 500,000 cedis of MASLOC cash invested with Obatampa Microfinance, but fails to pay the amount back into the accounts of MASLOC. According to the report, MASLOC invested the amount in a 91-day fixed deposit with Obatampa Microfinance Limited at an interest rate of 26% per annum in July 2014. However, the former CEO, in a letter dated 28th of August 2014, instructed Obatampa to terminate the investment and pay back the amount. Even though there is evidence of the amount paid to Mrs. Tamaklo, there is no evidence of same having been paid in the accounts of MASLOC. Mrs. Sedina Tamaklo should be held responsible, quote unquote. Mrs. Sedina Tamaklo should be held responsible for the refund of the amount of 500,000 with interest in accordance with the with Regulation 61(5) of the Financial Management Act 2003. The auditors have recommended. Now, in the course of this, I will also show you a couple of things, but let me read this. There is also a case of over-invoicing of mobile phones purchased for PINCO project market survey. And also, auditors have also found that in 2012, there was an overpayment for fishing nets from Sunpro Royal Standard Consulting. Okay, so, Gary, once again, are we not in a bit in a hurry to put out information that defame people, and then later it is found that these are not exactly so? I'm saying so because I'll read a reaction of the Sedina Tamaklo to you. What do you know about this?
Well, Mr. Ladi, what I know is I think the very report you are also holding in your hand. I see a forensic audit report and investigation. The first question I ask myself about this report is whether or not Mrs. Tamaklo Sedina's input was included prior to the issuance of the report. Now, the information I had was that yes, they had communicated to her, but she declined to make her input reflect. Now, if that is so, and these are the findings of the auditors, then unless she challenges the contents of the audit, that they are factually incorrect. As a matter of fact, no monies have been given to her, or the monies which are alleged to have been given to her, she actually paid the thing back into MASLOC account. But the question I ask myself, how can a public money go into a private account before onward transmission into the public account?
You understand why she did not as it were, cooperate or support this audit process? You understand,
well,
don't you?
I don't have much.
That she has been under investigation by IOCO.
Yes.
And whilst that is going on, she's being invited for an audit process. So you are fishing information to prosecute her. That's not right.
You see, something. If there is the argument, now these facts have now been put now there. Now we know that these monies, we are told, went into wrong hands. 500,000 Ghana cedis, we are told, basically, you know, were monies that they say money paid back to her, but she refused or declined or failed to pay the money back to the chest of MASLOC. Is it true? This allegation, is it true? If it is so, my question is, how did the money end up in his personal account prior for onward delivery even into the MASLOC account? It shouldn't be the right procedure.
You remember that she had been accused earlier, sometime last year?
Yes.
Even before an audit will commence.
Yes.
After she was accused, then she was put before IOCO for investigations. And subsequently, an audit is being done. How fair can that be?
Well, maybe people may try to question the procedure, but you see, when people suspect wrongdoing, and they think that certain public monies did not go the way it ought to go, they have to right to investigate. And I've made the point very clear here, that there is a day for accountability for every public official. That once you are giving or entrusted public money, you must come and account for the money. One day. You see, that's what I'm saying, that if you are not willing to go through this kind of process, i.e., take public office, and then the day of accountability comes, come and account, you don't want that, then don't go near and take public office. That's the bottom line. But you see, if these things are really true, then I think that basically she ought to refund all the monies to MASLOC, and also if they think that there's any way they can also do prosecution, they can do the prosecution. That is the way I see it. But I still maintain the point that once you take public office, you must be willing to account for your stewardship at the end of the day. That's the point I want to make.
All right. What do you know? These allegations, according to her lawyers, they say that various allegations were made against our client. The said allegations were denied by our client, and she gave a statement to that effect, that is to IOCO, to the investigative agency IOCO. It is our belief that IOCO, as the investigative body, is doing its professional work and within the ambit of the law. We wish to state that whilst it is the duty of the investigator to do their duty to gather evidence to complete their work, a private auditing firm by name Bafor Ewa and Associate wrote to our client to give them information and also respond to the same issues that our client had responded to at IOCO. We found the request from the said firm curious and an attempt to elicit information from our client after the fact unacceptable. Upon our advice, our client declined the said invitation to participate in this private audit process. The process employed confirmed our suspicion that the said audit firm was being used to do a hatchet job as opposed to the professional work as dictated by the ethics and the law governing the profession. It is our duty to state categorically that there is no truth whatsoever in the purported publication being published in the media, especially by Multimedia Group. For the avoidance of doubt, our client has denied all allegations leveled against her, and we wish to reiterate that our client did not misappropriate any funds of MASLOC during her tenure as Chief Executive Officer.
Yeah, but Mr. Like this does not respond to the specifics of this audit report.
It's a general denial of everything.
Yeah, it's a general traverse. If we give a general traverse of everything, you have not responded specifically to the various impropriety being leveled against her here. You understand? That is what I'm saying. What is her response to the specifics here? So let's see how it goes. Maybe now this has been leaked out into the media. I don't know the position or how MASLOC may intend to proceed, how Yoko may want to proceed, how maybe AG may want to proceed. Let's all wait and see. If AG wants,
you know why a private audit firm is the one employed here to do this job when it ought to be
the Auditor General
audit by the state?
Well, I'm not in a position to answer that question. Maybe I'm sure if the staker and the co are concerned, maybe possibly they can answer that, but I'm not in a position to respond to that matter.
In a minute, let's listen to Stephen Amwa, who is CEO of MASLOC.
A few months into my into our administration, Yoko started writing to me for pieces of relevant information. And of course, I complied. Professionally, I had to. Legally, I had no other option. So it was started last year. Once these findings are actually unraveled or uncovered, it will be left with the appropriate legal agencies or statutory so relevant bodies to actually pick it up or onward action to be taken by the state. Yoko know what they are supposed to do as an institution. Other relevant bodies, or I would say issue boundary factors, will also pick these things up, and then we'll move on from there. But I think as MASLOC, I don't know the role that we will play along the stream of all these legal processes and exercises. Once we are called to play ours, and we are supposed to, why not? We comply with all the requirements from the other bodies or agencies.
Right.
But I think the Yoko will move on with it.
Okay. So, Doc, what's your understanding after having read the material available on the subject of MASLOC and having also listened to the CEO, Stephen Amwa? We call him Sticker. Yes.
Mm-hmm. See, I have grave concerns about MASLOC in general. You know, because you have all these recurring issues about the way the money has been utilized, etc. You know, especially coming from the standpoint of PIAC, where oil revenue, you know, some oil revenue has been disbursed to MASLOC for its activities. I think in 2012, thereabouts, I think as much as about 35 million, you know, was disbursed to MASLOC, you know, for its operations, etc. You know, but from our standpoint, we have these situations where it appears as if certain institutions are used as a more or less like a conduit for the government to basically engage in other activities, you know, other than what the money has been disbursed for, you know. And MASLOC appears to be one of those institutions. So in my mind, you know, I think fundamentally we have to look at MASLOC as
Can you state it clearly? As a conduit to do what? And okay, where MASLOC is one of those agencies? Okay,
so let's say, for instance, you know, I'd have been hesitant to bring this in, but let's see GNPC, for instance, right? So GNPC gets its allocation, right? We had a situation where the Ministry of Finance made a special request, you know, for GNPC to release about 50 million of the money disbursed to GNPC, you know, and the money was actually given to the Ministry of Finance, right? You know, but it should not be so, right? If an allocation is made to GNPC, GNPC should use it only for its functions, right? And it appears that MASLOC set up as it is, right, it's become more like a political tool, right? Where it's not necessarily limited to any government per se, but the way it is set up, any government that comes in, more or less, right, it becomes attractive, like a way to, you know, take off party food soldiers and the like, you know. So we have a situation where the money is not being used in a judicious manner, you know. So I'm saying that the problem goes beyond this particular situation. We need to look at MASLOC as an institution, right? There are fundamental problems with MASLOC, and it's not going to be limited to one government or the other. It's going to be a recurring theme if we don't look at the way MASLOC is set up, you know, and the way MASLOC is set up as an institution, you know. And I think part of the problem is in the leadership, you know. So any government that comes into power is going to put in a political appointee, right? And that political appointee is going to be subject to a lot of influence, etc. It's an institution set up under the office of the president, etc. Right? So it's going to be more or less used like as a kitty, right? So I think that we need to look at MASLOC as an institution and then go beyond this particular situation, you know, because if that is not done, this is going to be a recurring theme.
I see. Like you say, it's recurring, and yet you have a difficulty stating, you know, facts that are rather notorious. Kweku. So,
but yes. If I may add that, you know, a grave concern I had was that what's the governance structure of MASLOC? You know, what are the approval systems? How can one person withdraw 500,000 Ghana cedis, invest it, unilaterally withdraw it before the due date, and fail to pay it into a company account? You know, this is a question
her lawyers are asking.
Well, for me, if you have proper governance structures in place, this should never ever happen.
Yeah,
it should never happen. Right.
Okay.
So let's look at MASLOC fundamentally as an institution.
Right. Public money enter your private accounts.
Kuku, we are visiting this matter for the second time.
Yes, I think so.
Yes. Last year we touched on it
and
when
MASLOC has come on our radar for a while. Allegations against past officials, as well as allegations against the present officials, if you remember.
Yes, recently.
Yes, recently. And relative to that one, I remember an assertion was made to the effect that some manipulation took place in Parliament in terms of the question.
Yes.
Of course, my checks have shown that that assertion was false. Yeah. So we may have as well buried in terms of the timing of the question and all those things.
The Afenyo Markings claim that he had spoken to, is it Abuja or what is his name? The Tema MP, is it around Tema somewhere? MP?
Nogbe.
Ashama.
Nogbe.
Yes, Nogbe. He had spoken to him and he had confided in him, Afenyo Marking, that he had not filed a question before the Flagstaff House or took the decision.
Before, well, I'm not sure if Flagstaff, but before that contract was abrogated.
Was abrogated.
Yes.
He later confirmed, and it was published, that he didn't tell Afenyo Marking that, and that in fact, he had filed the questioning long before the contract was abrogated by MASLOC.
The contract, and this is a diversion, it's not very relevant for what we are discussing. As far as I know, the contract was abrogated somewhere 12 October 2017. There's a letter here, 12 October 2017, abrogating the contract between MASLOC and Destro Impex Company Limited. This is 12 October. The question, and I went to Parliament. These things are, Parliament is a house of records. Okay. And I have here the form for notice of question from the MP. And he sent it on the 23rd November 2017. This is it.
Okay.
It was received in the office of the first deputy speaker. Apparently the speaker had traveled. So the first speaker was in charge. And it was received 24th November 2017. These are official records. And he filed it for normal processing, not an urgent question. And that is why it came to Parliament, was processed and was 14th March 2018. So factually, based on records, what Afenyo Marking said is closer to the truth. What the records say here is that this question was admitted for normal processing, date 19th February 2018. He filed it 23rd November 2017. These are records. So that assertion is false, I repeat.
Okay.
Now, let's deal with this matter. And I remember...
This is what he had said.
Yes.
He has sent me a message personally.
Who?
And he said, and it's Nogbe, the MP who filed that question. He said, I filed my question somewhere in September 2017 after the CEO signed the contract and gave a letter of comfort on the 10th of August 2017. He says, the question should have been answered in September 2017 before the termination in October, but it never got answered somehow. Yes.
It's here. I've just shown you the records. These are the records. This is parliamentary record. It was received in the office of the first deputy speaker, 24th November 2017. Okay? He filed the question for normal processing, 22nd November 2017. And please admit for normal processing. This is dated 21st February 2018. Parliament had the opportunity to deal with it 14th March 2018. These are official records.
Okay.
Not Kweku Bako's records. And that's what Parliament stands for. It's a house of records. But in any case, as I said, it's not part of the subject matter.
All right.
I thought we should use this opportunity to clear that mist.
Okay.
But you remember, in the course of us discussing the allegations, those allegations, we all, I think Kojo Oponkruma was also here.
Yeah.
And I thought he was gracious enough to admit that sometimes we have to be careful how we handle these things, using radio and TV to set up a trial, even before official investigations. If you recall, that it has a tendency of creating a lot of problems. And it's something some of us have done before. We've all been guilty in terms of that subculture. And people have been advising, let's try and refocus.
Kojo has been consistent on this crusade in recent times.
And I believe we all went along the line he articulated. I do not want to go back and do the things that we used to do way back. We should give the appropriate institutions of state the opportunity to deal with this thing to its logical conclusion. You asked the question, who I've been asking too, who commissioned the private firm to undertake the forensic audit? In the course of my research, it is not unusual, but I know that it takes the Auditor General to give out some of those things to private firms.
Okay.
If I read my understanding of the act that sets up the audit service, and we have many examples, especially under the Kufuor administration, especially this private firm that you've mentioned, Bafuwa and things. It's a very reputable private audit firm. It did a lot of forensic audits during the Kufuor administration, some of which ended up being the basis for prosecution in the cases that went to court against previous NDC officials. But we need to find out. IOCO appears to be the institution that commissioned this forensic audit, which was part of its investigations. I didn't bring my act here, the IOCO Act, but I won't be surprised if IOCO has that authority to, commission private firms to do things. We need to check that gray area, so that in terms of legality, because if it turns out that a thing it wasn't legally based, it could create headaches for prosecution eventually. But otherwise, my attitude is that it would be useful if we give the institutions of state the chance to do further interrogation and come up with it. I do not want to sound too judgmental in dealing with this issue.
Okay. Felix.
Yeah, something. I mean, to be candid, I mean, this leakage of this audit report and the way that it's been discussed and put in the public domain, I mean, has all the trappings of a diversionary propaganda, by a government that was reeling under considerable public heat in light of the fact that they have lurched from crisis to crisis, from scandal to scandal. I mean, only this week, we have had to grapple with the disgraceful events at the Commonwealth Games in Australia. So one can understand why they will hastily put out very dubious information into the public domain.
You judge
with the view. No, but I will give reasons why I believe so. I will give reasons why I believe so.
Matter under investigation.
I will give reasons why I believe so. So they put it out in order to divert attention from all the heat, the U.S. military deal, which is a terrible deal by every indication, and the public backlash that has arisen from it. Look, something. To begin with, I think that you read it. Madam Sedina Tamakulatumu has categorically, for the avoidance of doubt, denied all the claims made in this particular audit report. Gary says that is a general Travis, but she is not obliged to respond point by point. To this document, whose authenticity and credibility we are even not sure of. So if she says that she denies categorically everything that has been said, I think that it covers the requirement that is needed.
It may be a strategy also because she will be looking forward to going to court.
Well, I think that
she would rather.
I think she states in that,
she would rather wait to be put before court,
which is a proper thing to do.
Where she has no obligation to prove the claims, but those who are.
It is a proper thing to do. Indeed, she implies in that statement that she is ready for any such process.
Okay.
Why? She was abroad several months ago when she was called by IOCO that they had started some investigations into her tenure. She came down and has been to IOCO over a dozen times. She has fully cooperated with the investigation that IOCO is conducting. Her lawyers have represented her in times that she herself has not been available. So the process has been going on and has not been concluded. Whilst that process is ongoing, then they get a call from this private firm
to come and answer questions that are basically the same as what Yoko has been eliciting responses from her from. She has furnished Yoko with what she believes to be satisfactory responses to the queries that have been raised regarding her tenure and some expenditure that took place. If Yoko or government feels obliged to take the process further and commence prosecution because they believe there is basis to do so, Mrs. Tamakula has indicated her willingness to comply with the process and assert her innocence if such a platform were to be created. She is by no means obliged to cooperate with a private, audit firm that is only duplicating what Yoko is doing. And you see, something, this government has the power to demand or exact accountability from persons who served in the previous government. But whilst at it, they must also remember that a day of accountability will come where they themselves would have to justify why they have to waste public resources in this manner, why they do not use existing state institutions which have more than the capacity to undertake such audits. Yoko is doing virtually the same thing, the same questions that this audit firm sought to get.
What if it's Yoko that commission?
But even then,
I'm just asking.
No, even
that's
then,
an important question.
but you see, something, and it is not limited to this instance. I am aware of instances where sometimes 3 different entities conduct investigations into the same matter and ask the same questions. I have seen queries sent to past officials eliciting information which is readily available in the archives of the institutions that purport to be doing that, I have seen instances where audits have been commissioned, no adverse findings have been made, and then another audit has been commissioned, no adverse finding has been made, and then a state agency is called to come and do another audit, and then something is found and people are hauled before those investigative bodies to answer questions. I am saying that this government must understand that, you see, when you win elections, even by a wide margin, it is not a carte blanche to do as you please. So they will also be required someday to answer for why they wasted resources in this manner. Mrs. Tamakulu Ationu has said that she has done no wrong and that she is more than willing.
It's a public matter. She should not be telling the
public
what exactly she means by she's done no wrong.
No, because she has given the responses to an entity she believes is clothed with the power to demand that of her. And she expects that if that entity is not satisfied with the response, they will go the extra step of commencing a judicial process that allows her to adduce evidence to support her position, or that allows her to respond to any claims that are made that she finds to be adverse. But you don't sidestep that process and in the middle of the night conduct another investigation and throw it in the public domain in a manner that seeks to defame her. And I'm sure that you in the media have taken note of the caution in that statement also. Yes, that you ought to be guided in the way that you put out this information, because it could be defamatory. And when it is proven to be defamatory, you cannot say that you merely channeled information that you had in the public domain. I think that this government must appreciate that governance is serious business. When you're under pressure, you don't go and concoct something and come and put it out. Look,
Felix.
Why? Of course, there are some matters that are sub judice, so I don't want to broach them. But the point is that when we left power, there were things that were said about government officials that when push came to shove, and government was required to adduce evidence, it did not happen. There were instances where an official of government was reported to have withdrawn $400 million unilaterally from the account of a state entity and was bastardized and demonized and criminalized, only for it to turn out that that thing was not true. And when indeed government was even minded to go to court against that individual, that allegation found no space in the charges that were brought against them. Again, absolutely. Again, we have been witnesses.
That's nothing new.
No, yeah, but the point is that it is not. No, but it is no justification. It is no justification. No.
No, but it's a fair point he raised.
It is no justification.
The way that we bastardize people out there in the public, that he had, withdrawn such, humongous amount of money.
Who put the information out? Who?
Senior figures. Senior figures.
You see,
how do you know if that child will not come later?
When we come to the discussion of the so-called double standard,
who is better placed to do propaganda than the NDC when they said that President Kufuor has taken all the money in Ghana? They have fund accounts all over the place.
When senior figures within government,
they've done it to themselves.
Senior figures within the New Patriotic Party make such pronouncements which go to defame, bastardize, demonize, criminalize people, only for it to turn out that these claims are not true. It is worrying. And it appears that that trend is receiving official sanction. For instance, Stephen Amwa, CEO of Masloc, comes on radio and pronounces that very soon people will be taken to court. are prosecutorial decisions made by Stephen Amwa and the rest of his colleagues at MASLOC. It does not lie in their mouth to determine who gets prosecuted or not. He made those statements in a manner that sought to prejudice the outcome of any further judicial process.
As head of the institution, he will know.
But I'm saying that
he will know what Iyoko is thinking.
First of all, no. Look, Iyoko is supposed to be an independent body.
Yes.
At the very least, their reporting lines end up at the Attorney General's office. So when Stephen Amwa,
no, but they would comfort with the.
But the point is that when the head,
and they would inform the CEO that what we have seen, we are likely to start the prosecution. So get ready and gather this information, to assist us.
As we speak now, can government confirm or deny, or should we take Steve Amwa's word to mean that government has made a decision to prosecute anybody in respect of these allegations that have been made at MASLOC? So I am calling for caution and discipline in the way that information is put out, so that people's credibility and images are not damaged beyond repair, even before they have opportunity to correct the facts as they exist. Now, a quick point on Doctor's concern about what he perceives to be the politicization
of these
institutions. To begin with, it is not unusual to have instances where monies are taken from some parts of the economy to finance other things within the economy. For instance, as I speak to you, we do know that proceeds from the National Health Insurance Scheme, which are supposed by law to be used to finance the scheme, actually have been used to pay nursing training allowances. Hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis. That is happening as we speak. Again, the problem with MASLOC, in my view, is not so much political as it is about the people that MASLOC deal with and the informal nature of their businesses and establishment, which makes the institution of formal processes a bit cumbersome and difficult for them. So whilst in principle I agree with the need to improve upon the governance systems and the public financial administration systems that make it possible for us as a state to follow through in terms of the lines of accountability and what have you. We also cannot lose sight of some challenges that we have as a country in terms of the way that our economy functions and the way that they interface.
Take a listen to this.